So let me move a little bit first to financial and business model innovation, which is as important, by the way, as technology innovation when disrupting markets. In the US, what made solar grow at an exponential rate was a new concept, a new business model called zero money down solar finance. So third-party finance. So the companies, the winning companies in solar in the US, essentially go to your home or to your business and they say, I'm going to own this, I'm going to maintain this, I'm going to finance this, zero money down. All you need to do is basically consume the energy that this generates. Zero money down. From the moment that that business model happened in Q1 of 2009, you can see the curve growing exponentially. And now 80% of the solar in the US is essentially that residential and commercial is sold with third-party finance. So it was a business model innovation that created this fast growth and this disruptive path for solar in the US. And a company like SolarCity, our US SolarCity, they went public at $10 and now they're at like 60. So they've done pretty well with that business model. They were the ones that pioneered that new business model. And the cost of capital, now PV solar is so cheap that the cost of capital when you do third-party finance is a much more important factor than the solar radiation is. So cost of capital has become more important than the cost of PV. That's because PV is so cheap. And we have a lot of innovations in terms of business model that have contributed to solar essentially growing at a clip of, in the US, 70, 80% per year over the last few years. And we're looking at 100% growth for the foreseeable future. So financial innovation, business model innovation is every bit as important as technology innovation. And the cost of capital for solar has gone way down. I mean, just 4 or 5 years ago, we used to pay credit card rates for installation of solar, and now we're paying 4 or 6%. I mean, the market is, which is huge because cost of capital is so important. Now, solar or any technology does not work in a vacuum. So we need to compare it with other sources of energy. Now, since 1970, every single source of energy has gone up in price. Every single one. I mean, they go up and down like a yo-yo, but the trend is always up. That's because the marginal cost of energy is always more expensive as we move forward. So oil has gone up by 35 times, natural gas by coal by 6 times, and so on and so forth. Nukes by 10 to 15 times, while at the same time, solar has gone down. So when you compare the two, we're looking at improvements, relative improvements in the thousands. So solar has improved by 2,400 times relative to oil since 1970. And this is oil at 50. So at 100, it's twice that, right? In California, essentially, all 90% of solar customers start saving money on day one. On day one. So solar is already below what's called grid parity. So a solar installation will generate at less cost than what the utilities offer today. Now, every electricity market is slightly different, and we have 3,000 in the US, and we have a couple here, and so every electricity market is different. But this chart is similar in every electricity market. You have electricity going up historically and solar going down. So at some point they meet, and that's what's called solar grid parity. Now, according to Deutsche Bank, solar will be below what the utilities are selling us in all 50 states in the US by 2016. That's next year. And it'll be below grid parity in 80% of global markets by 2017. 2017, we're not talking about 2030 yet, right? I mean, this is now hundreds of markets around the world. Solar is already cheaper than grid. And the cost of solar keeps going down. Why? Because it's an exponential technology. And we know it's going to go down at a 22% learning rate because it's gone down since 1970. We know that. And the predictions are 25 cents a watt by 2020. That's the PV only. Total installed costs are going to be about $1. That's according to Citibank. And they're already there in Australia, actually, no subsidies. This is the actual cost of installed solar. So what happens when in 2020, the total installed cost of solar is about $1 or so? The improvement relative to all other sources of energy will be even higher. 6,000 relative to oil, 4,600 relative to nukes, and so on, right? That's assuming that these sources of energy are not going to keep going up in price, that they're going to be stable, which has historically not been the case. They always go up in price historically. So you think natural gas has a future? By 2020, solar will have improved by 6,800 times relative to natural gas. And natural gas, by the way, is at all-time record low prices, at least in the US, and 2,700 times relative to coal. So in fact, because of this, the rate of growth, this compound annual growth rate, may actually accelerate from 43 to who knows what, right? And essentially, we're below grid parity, solar is, in hundreds of markets. Now, I invented a new term, grid parity, God parity, God parity. So forget grid parity, we're already there. This is the point of no return.